All right, 135, chapter 6.1. We are officially going through chapter 6. If you remember, we ended our semester with introductions on substitution and elimination. You might want to revisit that if you did not do your job last semester, because again, you will need that. But again, this first week should be easy because it's mostly review based off of what we did last semester. It's your only review week. And you will need everything we learned this week for next week. So again, make sure if you did not do your job that you revisit the old videos. It is not my responsibility to reteach or teach you something that we should have already learned. If you did not do your job in the first quarter or first semester, and all of a sudden you started caring, it is not my job to just do 90% more work just because you did 0% last time. So again, I will tell you what videos you need to look at, and it's up to you to go and watch those videos and get that information. Please be sure to note that you must now get 70% on all homework leading up to an assessment. That is because, again, I learn from my students all the time, and I get better from my students all the time. And I had plenty of people who thought they could just kind of jump right to a quiz or test and cross their fingers and hope that everything went well. And in this situation, I can't let you do that. So if you have an issue with this, it's just getting a C%, and you can ask questions. So if you have an issue with that, I think it's more an issue with you maybe not being a 5-weight student than you having an issue with me being mean. I think 70% is very acceptable in terms of a percentage. It also means that if you take too long to get started, let's say you know everything's due Monday at midnight and you decide, like some of you did, to not do any work at all for a whole week, and then you just decide you're going to take the quiz, that you might not get a 70% on everything in time, and that you will get a 0% on your grades. So again, just make sure that you're adjusting accordingly to this. Also remember, again, you must attempt a problem before you can ask for help. I have all kinds of people who lie to their parents and say that Mr. Bradley doesn't help me, but I can't help you start the problem. The video helps you start the problem, and when you email me to help you start a problem, my first answer is going to be watch the video, because that is me helping you start the problem. Once you have started a problem and you've made a mistake, that is where this version of me, not the version on the video, but the version you email, kicks in. If you have something on paper, if you have an attempt, I can help you figure out what you did wrong. But if you're not solid enough to at least attempt it, it means that you took terrible notes or you took no notes at all, and that is not my responsibility. So again, make sure you send me a screenshot of the problem. Make sure you send me a screenshot of your work so that I can help you figure it out and get through it. Remember that we learned how to graph lines in chapter 5.3 and 5.5. There's your video references. When we saw the equation graph y equals 4x plus 1, we learned that this was slope-intercept form, which was y equals mx plus b. We learned to look at the 1, which told us to go up 1 and put a dot. Again, we'll see this later, but this is the general idea, and again, this should kind of click in your head and bring this back to memory, that this told us to go up 1 and put a dot. If that was negative, it would have been down 1 and put a dot. We then looked at the number attached to x, which represented slope, and so from that dot, we would go up 4 over 1, put our second dot, and that would be our line. In this graph, 2x plus 5y equals 10, that was in standard form. What we learned to do was say, since it's in standard form, we must find the intercepts. Again, there were two different types of graphs that we worked with. 2x plus 5y equals 10 was a second type. In order to find the intercepts, what we learned to do is ignore one of the variables. So when we ignore y in this problem, we end up with 2x and 10. And when you solve that, you end up with x equals 5. And that was one of our points. You then ignore x, and when you ignore x, you're left with 5y and 10. And so therefore you divide and you solve and you get y equals 2. This would mean go over 5, which would be right 5 because that's the x-axis. This would mean 2 up. You plot both intercepts and you move on. So that is your review on graphing. If you did not, again, get any of that, it's because you probably didn't get it the first time because you thought that it was just going to disappear, but nothing does that. But again, go watch those two videos. They should be accessible in your Canvas. And after that, after you've taken the notes, maybe you can ask some questions. But again, if you don't know how to graph right now, then you need to at least try it and send me what you have. But I'm not just going to teach you how to graph via email. That is a lot of work. Chapter 6.1 is asking us to solve by graphing. And so what we are going to learn is that the solution of a graph system is the point at which the graphs intersect. Alright, so let me do this real fast. I should have did that before I started. But anyway, the solution is where the graphs intersect. So With that being said, depending on your level of math, graph could cross more than once, but this chapter is not going to expose you to those problems just yet. They're going to be very simple, and what I'm going to do, because again this is a simple enough unit, which is why we didn't do it last semester, I'm just going to go through MathXL again. Be sure to jot down any notes so you can remember how to actually do the problem when everything's going. So hopefully my computer lasts and we'll see what happens. On this first problem, let me zoom in. It wants you to solve both of these systems. So again, what we will do is negative 3x plus 5 means minus 5 means I go down 5, put my dot. Negative 3x means from this dot I go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, put my dot. Then I must graph the second one, hit another line. Negative 5x minus 5 again means go down 5, which actually tells me what the solution is. And then from there I go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. And if you did not notice, it's going to make you check your answer first. Hopefully I get that right. But if you did not notice, our intercepts were the same. Like we went down 5 for both of them, so the solution of where they cross should be here at the 5, and so you have to actually put the ordered pair, which is 0, negative 5, which should be the answer that we're looking for. That one's not going to pop up a lot, but I'm glad it popped up on your notes because it does happen sometimes. What you'll see is more stuff like this. So 4x minus 2, again, using what we learned, go down 2 because that's what the 2 is telling us to do. The 4 is saying go 1, 2, 3, 4 up over 1. Negative 3x plus 5 is telling me to go up 5 first, and then down 3 over 1. That should be our graph. Again, they're going to expect you to do that. But the second thing it's going to do is say, what is the solution? Well, solution is where they cross. This is at 1 over 2 up. So that would be the point 1, 2. And that would be your answer. All right. So again, the graphing is important because if you can't graph, you can't find the answer. And then the second part, again, the solution of a graph system is where the graphs intersect. Y equals x. Well, there's no number there, which means that if there's no number added on to x, that we should be starting at 0. And remember that this is just an x, that's a 1, which means up 1 over 1. That's my first graph. Negative 2x plus 9 means go up 9, which is here. And then from there go down 2 over 1, save it. There's our graph. Hopefully that's right, which it is. And then when it says what's the solution, again, these two graphs cross here, so that would be at over 3, up 3, so that would be 3, 3. And that's really all that it is. So again, the only issue you could really have on this is if you don't know how to graph, and as I said earlier, that's really not my problem because I did teach you how to graph and you had plenty of time to ask about that. Negative x plus 8 means go up to 8. Negative x means that's a negative 1, so from here go down 1 over 1. X plus 2 means go up 2 first. And then this x is saying from there go up 1 over 1. Put your second dot, save it. And again, hopefully this is right first, which it is. And now that we have that right, our solution here is, looks like over 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 3, 5 should be our answer there. This one here is a standard form because notice x and y are on the same side. So in that case, we ignore y and we see 2x equals negative 2, which means that x should be negative 1. Again, that's something that we just talked about. Our second one, we ignore that, should be negative y equals negative 2, which means y should be a positive 1. On this one here, when we ignore y, we get negative 4x equals negative 8, which means that x should be a positive 2. And here we get negative y equals negative 8, which means that y should be 8. Maybe you need to write those down on paper, but really that's all that it is. Ooh, this is going to be crazy. I hope that's not it. Let's see. Negative 4x equals negative 8 would be x equals 2. Y equals 8. X equals negative 1. Y equals 1. We'll see if that's the answer first. That's About to say, I didn't think so. The graph of the equation 4x plus y is correct, but the graph of the other one's incorrect. So let's go back to this thing here and let us change this. This should be x equals -1, which I believe it was. These graphs are so crazy. There we go. And this should be y equals 2. I went to 1. That's what I did wrong. Anyway, there it is. That should be right. Again, everybody messes up. That's why I want you to actually get in there and make some mistakes, because that's really how you learn it. And then your solution is over 1 up 4. And that is that. You should be doing these on paper, which is where my weakness is anyway, is that I'm not doing them on paper. These graphs are different. X equals 3 pretty much just means go to where x is 3, which is here. And if x equals 3, it's going to pretty much be 3 everywhere. And notice here that your x is staying 3 on every point. And so the line that you have will just be 2 points to go through x equals 3. Y equals 7 means go to where y equals 7. That is your y value here. And notice that it stays 7 here and here. And so that is y equals 7. Again, I didn't teach it a lot, but it's something that you'll be able to do. It's really easy to do once you get into it. Just cross through that value, and of course those cross at 3, 7. And then the very last one, y equals x plus 2 means go up to 2. The fact that that's an x means go up 1 over 1. The other one says go down to y equals -3 and go up 1 over 1. That should be the graphs we're looking at. And here is the philosophical question. If the solution is where the two graphs cross, and these two graphs have the same exact slope, will they ever cross? The answer is no. Therefore, there is no solution, and that's one question you'll need to look out for. Alright, so outside of that, like I said, there's really nothing else going on. The homework should